What's going on, everybody? My name is Hap. Welcome back. I had to improve my camera quality and my microphone quality, so thanks for bearing with me. In this video, I'm going to talk about master royalties and all of the confusion associated with them. If you haven't already seen it, make sure you click on my profile right now and watch my music publishing video where I explain music publishing. And for those of you who don't understand, whenever a song that you produced has come out, music publishing is generated and master royalties are generated. Sit down, lock in, get your notebook, and let's talk about masters. So let's begin with digital performance royalties. How many of you guys have heard of Sound Exchange? Me too. Digital performance royalties are payments made to artists when their music is streamed on non-interactive digital services. You might be thinking, what the hell is a non-interactive streaming service? Here you go. So you have interactive versus non-interactive. Interactive is you getting to choose the music you want to listen to. So think YouTube, Apple Music, Tidal, Amazon Music, Deezer, Spotify, you name it. Non-interactive is Slacker Radio, SiriusXM, TuneIn, Pandora. Anytime where you click a station, they pick the music for you. Digital performance royalties are payments made to artists when their music is streamed on non-interactive digital services. Sound Exchange is responsible for getting you paid for your streams on these non-interactive streaming services. Producer agreements will have a Sound Exchange LOD attached to the bottom. This needs to be signed by the artist in order to send it off to Sound Exchange Direct. When you get a big record to come out, you will be sent a producer agreement, and at the bottom, you will see a Sound Exchange LOD. LOD stands for Letter of Direction. All that really means is they are directing Sound Exchange to pay you a percentage of the earnings of the digital performance royalties from non-interactive streaming platforms. This is important because PX versus FX means partially executed versus fully executed. That means that you sign the agreement and they haven't signed it yet, so it's partially executed. Or you signed it, they signed it, you got it back, that's fully executed. The only way you're going to be able to get paid your share of digital performance royalties is if they have fully executed the agreement, because when you send it off to Sound Exchange Direct, the first thing they're going to look at is, has the artist signed off on this to direct a share of their royalties to this producer? So this is key. You need to make sure that they sign it and send it back to you so you can get it sent off to a Sound Exchange Direct. Most people probably have some money sitting in a Sound Exchange account somewhere. They just didn't know this. And so here I am, a random guy on the internet, to tell you how to make some money. Now let's go into actual masters. Masters is so complicated. When a song comes out, not only is it generating music publishing, it is also generating master royalties. And most people don't really know the difference between the two, or let alone that there's performance royalties and then there's mechanical royalties and publishing. So with that being said, there's a few things to consider. And I actually want to start backwards. Let's assume that you're dealing with somebody who's either independent, in a distribution deal, or in a classic record label situation. What I want to talk about is distribution deals. This is like the new hot chick on the block. Everybody wants a distribution deal. I'm not mad at it. Basically, you maintain ownership of your masters and you just give a company, say 10, 20, 30% of the revenue. What is common for us, the artist will give us 50-50 after the distribution's taken their share. Depends on whatever the structure looks like. Sometimes there is an advance involved. It's very small most of the time. Because you're getting a significant share of the master, I think it's fair to take a chance and assume that the song will do well so that you can get paid residually every month or quarter. The reason why I don't necessarily like working with independent artists sometimes is because we'll do a deal with them independently and then they'll go sign a distribution deal, not tell anybody, and then we'll stop getting payouts on DistroKid, but the whole time they signed a deal somewhere else, took, $100,000 and signed off the masters that they actually don't own anymore, because we own 25%. You have to track down who's the distributor. Then you got to hit the distributor and say like, hey, you need to either pay us out a lot of money to get this master share, or you need to deal with the fact that we are still going to own our 25%. We're not going to dilute, and you got to figure it out with the artist. So those conversations are always fun. I'm dealing with it right now for several artists. The last one is a record deal. So this is the most common one. This is where basically the record label just owns 100% of the master, and then they work on a points basis. So the artist, depending on the deal they signed, is usually anywhere from an 80-20 to a 85-15. I've seen it all. I've seen a 90-10. I've seen the worst deals ever. But usually it's 80-20, 80 in favor of the label. So they get 80% of the net revenue. 20% goes to the artist. And then that artist pays out a mass artist royalty pool. When you put out this song, when you have a placement and you have your publishing that you're going to split with the artist, 50-50, and then you have the master side and you have the label who actually owns the master, and then the artist is going to get their 20 points and then they're going to pay you out from those points. So you're going to get your 3 or 4 points. Really, the artist ends up with 16, 17 points. You end up with 3 or 4, maybe 5. Obviously, it can vary, but generally that's what I see. And it's just generally a shit deal. This is where advances come in. And here's an example of us getting paid $15,000. Our typical fee is anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. We've been paid up to $20,000, $25,000, but it's rare. It depends on the caliber of the artist. And you got to ruffle a lot of feathers to get paid. Welcome to the music business. But this is where when an artist is signed to a major label, you can get paid out these kinds of advances depending on your leverage, or even $5,000 or $2,500. The point is, producer advances are tied to the master side. So they essentially are paying you a loan from future earnings on the master in exchange for you giving up your ownership. When you deal with independent or distribution deal artists, they're going to give you a share of the master typically. Let's say we got about $50 per point. You got to get 75 million streams just to recoup that 15,000. And at that point in time, 75 times 34, the song has made $250,000 and you got a fraction of that. Let's figure out what that is. Divided by 255,000. You're getting like 6% of the earnings from the song. So that's pretty shitty, but that's how most deals end up playing out. And so the crazy part too, and a lot of people don't know this, is that in order to actually start getting paid your master royalty share once it's recouped, you have to reach out and send an email to the label after wrapping up partially executed paperwork for the record. So we had all these songs that we had gotten advances for. Some of them had recouped. We had no idea. And I have a story of a friend who was just making sure all his royalty statements and everything were accurate. He finally went and found out he could set up his master royalty portals. And when he did that, he had over $40,000 or $50,000 just sitting in one account through masters, which is amazing and pretty rare, but he was blown away. And the reality is most labels aren't going to tell you that you need to reach out to them in order to set up your portal to get paid out. So it's just another thing. This is why I say masters are pretty confusing once the artist is signed, because when it's an independent or a distro deal, it's very simple. You just get paid directly from the distributor or directly from DistroKid or TuneCore. And I know a lot of people that make a healthy living just off that alone and don't have to worry about anything else. Let's run through a couple of scenarios here. Independent artists own 100% of their master. However, they will often enter into distribution deals giving a percentage of their master for money. The most common split is 20% to the distribution company, 80% to the artist, with the artist giving up 10 to 40% for the producer. This results in you getting $0 advances typically, but getting to retain a percentage of ownership of the record, which is valuable. And if the song gets 5 million streams, it'll generate around $4,000 per million, resulting in $20,000 all in. If you own 10 to 40%, that's anywhere from $2,000 to $8,000 in your pocket, which is pretty crazy. Ownership is important in the music industry, and that's why most companies focus on owning masters and buying you out of it. You just have so much potential to make more money. Let's say $700 on the publishing side versus $3,400 on Spotify. It's $700, $1,400, $2,100, $2,800, $3,500. It's 5x your money on the lowest tier. If you get on Apple Music, it's literally 10x the amount of money you make on publishing, which is just insane. So with that being said, let's talk about signed artists. So signed artists give up their master ownership for label services, a large sum of money, and end up with a net profit split on the master, which is awful. The most common split is 80% to the record label, 20% to the artist, with the artist giving up 3 points for the producer. So it'll be like 80-17-3, which means that the artist has to recoup their deal off of 17%, not 20, not from 100, it's from 17%. So if you get $1 million, you basically have to make back $5 million, which is insane. This is why you're offered an advance as a producer to give away the rights to your music in exchange for 3 or 4 points. So if the song gets 5 million streams, it'll generate $20,000, but you'll be far away from seeing a dime on the master side because you received an advance that have to recoup. If it's $5,000 or more, it will take tens of millions of streams. And so if we just do simple math, 5 million streams, if you solo produced it, you got 3 points, which is the industry standard. The song has to do 33 million streams before you recoup. At that point in time, 33 times 34 is over $100,000. You see what I'm saying? But generally speaking, especially in the digital era, you're not going to recoup most of the advances you get from signing these agreements, which is unfortunate, unless you're signing tiny deals. That's why you want to extract as much value as you can, because if you're getting a record every month to come out and you're making 10, 15K a record, then you're going to be at 120 to 180 grand a year off of advances alone. And then you also have your publishing income. And if you're doing sound kits or anything else, this is a really complicated topic and it's taken me years to understand all this stuff. If you haven't already seen the other video with publishing, you should go watch that. I break down performance royalties. So that's including things like BMI and ASCAP, other platforms too. And then mechanicals, which I'm not an expert in. I explain that as well. And I just try to give people a digestible way to understand how complicated it is to get paid in the music industry. And if you see this stuff and your eyes glaze over and you don't really care, I feel you, but you're never going to make money in the music industry. I've been doing this a long time, and I've scaled some of the most successful producers in music of the last 5 to 10 years. And I can tell you that the ones who really cared and had their finger on the pulse with how to really make money in music, they made money in music. They have the ability to live the life that they want to live because of it. The people who want to be creative and vibes all day, that's fine, but you have to either hire somebody who is exceptional about this aspect of the business, or you just will have a great career. You might have a ton of plaques sitting behind you and you can feel all good about it, but you probably didn't get paid much for any of them, between the advances, even between the publishing that you may or may not have fought for, and your portals probably aren't set up. Basically, your royalties and everything's just going to be all fucked up, and you're going to be 30, 40 years old going, man, I need to get all this figured out. And then you're going to talk to somebody who can help you figure it out, and they're going to be like, dude, what have you been doing? And you're just going to be pissed off because you lost out on hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars by not getting this all situated. This is Master Royalties. If you really want to understand more of this, I run a community where I educate producers on everything that I've learned over the last 10 years. No pressure to join. It's a really cool community, and people across the world have joined. So it's been a very meaningful project of mine. I think anytime I can educate more producers to take initiative in their career and generate income is a win for me. Thank you so much. My name is Hav. If you don't know me, I run Split Mind, which is a production publishing company. I've amassed several billion streams. You guys roasted me about my audio quality, and I immediately went and got a better microphone. I actually got the DJI. I don't know why I'm using this. It's kind of nice to hold this. And then I'm actually using my iPhone camera to record this. This is a little better quality. So anywhere I can improve these videos, I'm going to make sure to do my best with that. If you are a video editor or you feel like you want to help me in my mission to educate more producers, please shoot me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram is linked in my bio, or it's just at halfwaysm. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. Take care.